Here today at Spark Robotic, we're changing out the motor in our Hurricane from Black Box vacuums. We realized that there was something going on with this, so I diagnosed the problem, took the panels off, and realized that one of our motors was throwing blue sparks, which is not what you want to see. It was underperforming, so I disconnected that and ran on 3 motors until I could get this part in. But today I'm going to show you how you can do this yourself and diagnose the problem if you're running into issues with your black box vacuum. So what you'll need is a 7/16 wrench, potentially a pair of pliers, and a 5/32 key. And what you'll want to do is first remove all of the hex bolts from this after you've lifted the top section off of the bottom section from both sides. It's a heavy piece of machinery, so getting 2 people to lift it would be helpful. Most people who are going through this problem already have it plumbed. So getting it up on this ridge and exposing this so that this whole panel can come off is important. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So when you first disassemble this, it's sealed pretty good and it wants to stick, this panel. So you won't have to worry about it falling, but I've already taken this off once. So it is loose and it will fall on you, and it's very heavy. So you want to be careful taking out that last bolt. All right, so this exposes the inner panel that you're going to need to use your 7/16 wrench on. And there are 4 bolts, and there are little rubber gaskets that cover these fans on the backs of the motors. You're going to want to be careful to remember to put those back on when you go to put this back on after you've done all the work. So under normal circumstances, before working on anything like this, you're definitely going to want to disconnect the power. There's a lot of voltage that goes through this, so you definitely don't want to mess around with that. I'm leaving this plugged in right now because I know that once I take this off, I kind of understand what's going on inside. I'm not going to touch anything that's going to hurt me. And I'm going to turn it on so you can see what's happening to one of our secondary motors. It is tight quarters under here, so be prepared for that as well. So this is the array. We have our 2 secondary motors, our 2 primary motors. They're each individually wired. And for this case, I actually wrapped some electrical wire around this so that it wouldn't connect with anything on the inside when I was running it, because we do run production jobs here. And I needed to run it even with just 3. So I definitely did that. But I'm going to disconnect these, reconnect them, and show you what was happening. All right, I'm gonna turn it on now. All right, so now you see what we were dealing with. Not what you want. This is a fire hazard among many other things. So we definitely want to take this out and replace it. There's power wires, there's linked grounds, there's a connector to the hose, to the actual black box system. Everything else should be pretty simple. I'll probably speed this up as I go through this process. I did have to go get a flathead screwdriver because the connector clamp to the hose that goes inside of the unit is actually a flathead.
Was that motor plug and play, or is there?
I'm still doing the video. It's pretty plug and play though.
Okay, you don't have to do any wiring?
No. Just like that, it's out. You will have to use your flathead to kind of wedge into the hose to pop it off this nozzle, but fairly simple. All right, so we're just gonna put the new one back on. I'm going to go ahead and slide on this hose before I thread it into its place. All right. First things first, I'm going to attach the bolts so that I can get it seated well before I tighten that. Make sure that you reattach the ground wires, the green wires, on top of the bolts before you thread on the washers and the nuts. All right, all the bolts are back in. The hose clamp is tightened down. I did notice that the hose clamp was a little loose when I went to go take it off, so I'm gonna go ahead and check all of the hose clamps while I'm in here to make sure they're all tightened down. All right, now this would have gone a lot faster if I had had a ratcheting wrench or an impact driver, but you can do it with a simple wrench. That bottom nut is just a little tight to get to, so watch your hands. These little rubber gaskets on the outside of the fan, sometimes they don't want to stay on, but they're very important and you don't want to forget that step or leave them in the bottom of the box. Also, there is a gasket, that one's loose. There is a gasket that comes on the face of the fan. And when you get your new one, it'll be on there pretty good and doesn't want to come off, but sometimes the old one will want to stick to the box. So make sure you grab this as well. You don't want to leave it in there. Everything's plugged back in. So we're going to attach the inner cover after I show you that it's worked. No more sparks at Spark Robotic. Excellent. So you'll want to align it as close as possible while pressing in. And then grab a washer and a nut and just start hand tightening one on. This top part is where I like to start. I'm going to tighten that down so that I don't have to hold this thing in. All right, once you feel the tension, you can let go and it's a little bit easier on your back. I'm just going to replace all 4 nuts and washers. All right, now it's time to replace the outer tray. Because it's up on this lip, it should be easy to get to. If it falls back in, you may have to re-lift it up onto that lip. Right now mine is already resettled back in, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the whole assembly forward to get a little bit more room. And that should allow me to slide this in to the base and start attaching all these bolts. So while I'm doing this, I'll tell you about these boxes. These black box vacuums are incredible. They're very durable. We've had this one running production in our training room as well for several years now, and this is the first issue that we've ever had with it. Highly recommend these for your router tables. It's on our RTR 84. We do sell the kits. We do help walk through the installs of the boards for the vacuum systems. And Black Box also sells a very awesome gray mat that you can put on top of everything that really increases the suction of these things over the whole square footage of the table. And it can do a lot of work for what you're trying to do, so that you don't have to use clamps or nail guns or anything like that, and you can have the best experience possible. These lower ones, because they did fall back into the tray, they're wanting to grab on the tray itself. So I am gonna have to lift this back up to be able to get those seated, because we don't want these pinching against the tray. We want them fully flush with this back panel. And as always, be careful not to cross thread. Actually, I'm going to try something, because getting under this table and out and lifting this thing is very hard. I'm going to actually wedge the box with a standard flathead from the side and lift it up to be able to set those screws in. Fairly simple. Now it's seated appropriately. All the bolts are tightened. It's a good idea to go ahead and pull these filters out and blow them out with your air hose. Go ahead and do the same thing with your filter on the side. Keep up with that. That can get clogged. They're very robust filters themselves, so you can just pull the canister out and actually spray them from the inside out with your air hose, and they'll get rid of a lot of the debris so that you can have maximum suction. So I hope that was an instructional video for you. I hope you learned a little bit how easy it is to work on these Black Box vacuums. If you're having any issues with yours and it's not sucking the way it is, or if it's making an odd noise, definitely unplug it from the wall, take these bolts off, investigate, and see if there's something going on similar to what we had going on. Fairly easy to work on. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments section. Again, this is Travis from Spark Robotic, and I hope I was helpful.